Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your co-host, Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. It is Wednesday, January the 10th, 2024. And if it's Wednesday night, it is definitely Black Men Speak. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are first going to acknowledge Liquid for our theme song, Thank For Us Films, for our virtual studio. And unfortunately, my co-host Jimmy Stewart is a little bit under the weather today, so he's not going to be on screen with us. But do please put your prayers together for Jimmy, and he will definitely be back with us soon. But he is definitely going to be helping with the production side today. But we definitely have an exciting show for you. We are looking forward to this. Our real estate experts are going to be back in the house today, and we have got a lot to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get the show started. We want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And what we would do, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, hit that like button, or share this information with someone else who do you believe that can benefit from the information that we are going to have in store for you tonight. So let's go ahead and get this party started. First, we're, of course, going to go through our birthdays. We have some birthdays today that we are going to acknowledge and or give an early shout out to. So let's get this party started. First, for those of you who are big time boxing fans and who've been around for a while, we're going to show a guy that you might know about. You know, there is a guy who we call the Big George. George Foreman. His birthday is today, January 2024. Former heavyweight champion of the world who rebranded himself as Big George, the Grill Master. For those of you who've been around long enough to know that he has had several television shows, and he also had the George Foreman Grill. I have one myself. They're absolutely fantastic. And so happy birthday, George. Hope you're out having a good time with your family, friends, and or loved ones. Next, one of the old-time divas in the music industry, Mary J. Blige. She has a birthday that's going to be coming up on tomorrow, January the 11th. Early happy birthday. I think my favorite song from Mary J. Blige is What's the 411? And we're going to go ahead and move along. For you basketball fans out there, you might know this face, Dominique Wilkins, NBA All-Star and Hall of Famer, one of the greatest dunk masters of all time. His birthday is January the 12th. Early happy birthday to you. We'll see you in a couple of days, buddy. For those of you who liked the 90s sitcoms, you may know this beautiful face. Janet Hubert. She was Aunt Ville, of course, on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She has a birthday coming up on January the 13th. So give her a shout out in a couple of days. And that black don't crack, still looking beautiful. For those of you who, of course, love music, rap in particular, or if you watch television and movies these days, you might know this face. LL Cool J. Long-time, old school, OG rap artist who has rebranded himself into a television and or movie actor. Hey, he has a birthday on January the 14th. Early happy birthday to you, bro. Keep letting it rock. For some of you old school rap fans, you might know this guy with the patch. Slick Rick. This is an earlier photo of him, but hey, he still got it. Slick Rick has a birthday coming up also on January the 14th with LL Cool J. So in a couple of days, you can give him a holler out, social media account. This next woman here is a woman of all seasons, an actress, great director. I believe she's produced a couple of films. One of my favorites, Regina King. This sister here is the bomb.com. She has a birthday coming up on January. Give her a shout out in a couple of days. And we're looking forward to seeing some more movies, either with you behind the scenes or of course, on front of the screen. One of our last few, another guy in the motion picture industry, Mario Van Peebles, January the 15th birthday, right along with Regina King, has made a lot of movies and has also starred in a fair share of movies himself. Has a birthday on January the 15th. In addition to actress and entertainer extraordinaire Debbie Allen, who has a birthday on January the 16th. And finally, one of my all-time favorites, Sade, has a birthday on January the 16th. And I'm trying to tell you, she is one of my all-time favorite singers of all time. Smooth and groovy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, those are our birthdays for this week. Now it's time to get to the prime rib, the meat and potatoes of our show this evening. So what I'm going to do now is invite our two special guests back. And if you have been on Black Men or watched us before, you probably know these two faces. Dwight Johnson, our real estate agent extraordinaire, incredible, and brother Terrell Richard. He makes it happen and finds the money for folks. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome back to Black Men Speak.
Thank you. Great to be back.
Thank you. Great to be back.
All right. So again, anyone who's been watching this for a while know who you guys are, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to give us the Cliff Notes version of what you do in the market, how you serve people, and then we will go ahead and move on with the show.
All right. You want to go first, Mr. Terrell?
Definitely. I've been a residential lender in the business since I graduated from college. That's why I studied in college. And I've been doing that since 1998, a little bit over 25 years. And I serve my clients in both refinances and purchase of houses and also second homes, and also creating a little bit more wealth with the rental properties. So I just work with a lot of different people to help them realize the American dream.
Perfect. And he does it at a very high level. I am Dwight Johnson, the principal owner of the D1 Realty team, powered by Keller Williams Houston Preferred. I office out of the Houston area. 99% of my business is in the residential space in the Houston area. In 2023, we did venture out a little bit, did a little business in Dallas, a little business in College Station, but primarily we are residential space only in the Houston market. I run a small but mighty team here in Houston. We pride ourselves on wealth building, helping the people generate wealth through the vehicle of real estate. And our motto is just really having some of the most informed consumers around. We always come from contribution. We always make sure our clients are super well informed so that they themselves can make the best decision. We don't make decisions for them, but we put them in a space where they can make quality decisions as it relates to real estate.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And before we get started, we do have a couple of folks who are in the chat line. We have Ms. Audrey K. Booker out of the DFW area. What's going on? And good evening to you. We have Ed Gray, the commish, out of the Dallas area, one of my homeboys from a long time. And we also have the Uncle Asar Al-Kabilan out of the Austin, Texas area. So we want to thank everybody who is on the chat line, number one. And number two, we want to make sure that for those of you out there who have questions on real estate, whatever it is, whatever the magnitude might be, send us a note in the chat line. We will make sure to make time to have either Terrell or Dwight to address your questions. So make sure that you get ready for the questions because we're about to be on and popping. So what I want to do is start from the general and get to the more specific. And I want to say that in terms and in context of kind of starting with 2023 and what happened and what you saw and what your summary would be of what we saw in 2023 now that we're in January 2024. And then we will move ourselves forward. We'll get to some questions, talk about a couple of specific things that I think our audience is going to want to know. And then we'll go from there. So we'll start with you, Terrell. Tell me your perspective on what you saw in 2023. What were the big things? What were the things that you didn't expect? And then we'll go to Dwight.
So in 2023, it was actually on my side, maybe not Dwight's, the worst year in American history for mortgages. And it's because we operate from two different sides. We operate from the purchases and the refinances. So there were very little refinances, maybe some home equity opportunities, but since the rates were so much higher than what people were getting in 3 years ago, you didn't see that many refinances. So we actually, 2023 was the worst year ever for mortgage with us in terms of numbers. Also, I think 2008 was the second worst, and 2022 the third worst. But I did see some positive things that came from it. The rates did go higher, so once rates go a little bit higher, property values drop a little bit, make things a little bit affordable for people. And I always tell my clients that uh, it's always a good time to buy in real estate, but it's especially a good time to buy when the rates are high. And the reason is because values are usually a little bit lower than they normally are when rates are lower. And if rates ever go down, you can always refinance and lower that payment. So it was actually a good year for me, but I saw a lot of people in my industry struggle, and I saw a lot of companies, so many companies, and so many people that worked in mortgage get laid off in 2023. It was not good for the industry, but some of us did adjust to it, and find a way to make home ownership still work and find a way to keep our clients happy.
Okay.
Right, Dwight. We'll now transfer to you.
From the real estate side, I guess we have to answer this in two phases: industry-wide and then personal-wise. So I think one of the things that I always do so well is I work for a company that's big on information, and I always feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve. We do what we call a family reunion every year in February, and we kind of see into the future just a little bit. So we knew it was going to be a challenging year. Everything that the Feds was doing with regards to rates and trying to address inflation, most people that were informed knew it was going to be a challenging year. And we felt like the way to overcome that was to get out in front of it with information, love on your clients. So industry wise, we did see a shift in real estate sales. We've started to experience for the first time days on market increased drastically, meaning it takes a whole lot longer to get a home sold. Marketing, you had to spend more dollars on marketing to do those things to get it sold. We saw lots of price reductions. Homes were no longer selling at list price in many cases, or over list price. And one of the positives, though, that came out of it is we did see a lot of opportunities for seller concessions. So if someone was in the market in this time frame, that meant they knew they were going to have to buy at a higher rate. So they had a motivation, a real need to be in the market. So, and if they really needed to sell, they had to do whatever it takes to get it sold. So from a buyer side, some of our buyers benefited from being able to take advantage of seller concessions. Even from new home builders were offering those. So overall, it was a tough year for the industry. I think we might touch on this today, that there were a lot of people, Brother Terrell's all referred to, a lot of people left the industry. A lot of people in my industry left as well. Personally, we had a really good year. We had probably the third best year in terms of earnings, the second best year in terms of volume. But I think we knew what we needed to do. Whenever you see a shift coming, you have to double down, put in more work to be able to maintain the place. And what we believe is by doing all the extra work, once we're starting to come out of it, we're going to, kind of hockey puck out of it. I think we'll be well ahead of the curve based on the efforts that we, put forth for all our client base this year. So good year for me personally.
Hey, congratulations, because I know we talked about that a couple of times last year as we were getting into the second half of the year. Of course, home prices have been going through the roof. Interest rates, that have been low for close to a decade, that have been low for close to a decade, started going up, made it rough for a lot of people. So I remember that. But let me ask you about this, and I know we've talked about this offline a little bit. Just the overall cost of housing in the United States. I mean, depending on what market you're looking at, certain homes or real estate in general, doubled within 2, 3, 4 years easily. Have you seen a cooling off of the prices? And obviously, we know that in looking at the Fed, they've been talking about finally starting to cut rates. I think that began towards the end of last year. Do you see the market cooling down? What's kind of happening from both of you all's perspective? We'll start with Terrell.
Well, from our perspective, what we're seeing is you're right. It is cooling down just a little bit, and it's making it where more people are coming back into trying to purchase. But one of the big things that a lot of people are excited about is we're being told, and this is always a guess. It's never a factual statement, but when you predict rates based on what has happened in the United States over time. We look at the history of rates, and we are expected for rates to drop by the end of the year. So it's getting a lot of people very excited about that, which is one of my biggest selling points is to buy now, because when rates go lower, people are going to bid a little bit more. You still have a huge influence of people moving from places like California with more money than people here, and able to purchase a house $50,000 over market price because they made so much money off real estate in California. So I'm telling my clients, this is a great time to buy. Buy the house that you can afford, not the house that you want, because it's not a guarantee that the rates are going to go down. But when they do go down, you're going to be in a good position to lower that payment significantly. Plus, another big thing that was, and I don't want to get political, but the only thing that I've seen Governor Abbott do that I can respect is that, well, I shouldn't say respect, but the only thing that I'm on board with is that Governor Abbott and the powers that be, they increased the homestead exemption from 40,000 to 100,000, which means a lot of people's taxes are going to go a lot lower. So that makes homes more affordable as well.
Let me ask you this. For the layperson who really I just get my tax bill every year and I got to figure out how to pay it, whether it's a one lump sum or in increments, can you simplify how that is going to work? I know, again, last year during elections, we had several constitutional amendments. That was one of them. Simplify this for the person who I just get the tax bill and got to pay it if you're a homeowner, how that's going to work moving forward. And we're looking at Texas, but obviously there are some other states that may or may not have had something similar going on. So from that perspective.
Well, what that meant is that last year you got $40,000 off for homestead exemption. That meant if the government said your house was worth $300,000, they tax you at $260,000.
Gotcha.
So now, if it's your homestead means that's a house that you own, that's a house that you live in, and that you consider the house that you live in, not for renters and not for second homes. You can only claim one in Texas. And now, if that house was worth $300,000, it now being taxed at $200,000. So a lot less than it was, last year, which is very good for a lot of people, and it's just helping you afford a house a little bit better.
Gotcha. So if I'm getting this correct, and I want to make sure that I'm saying as well, I got a $300,000 house, as opposed to it being taxed at $300,000, as opposed to being taxed at $260,000, which was the standard exemption in Texas. Prior to that, it's only being taxed worth of $200,000 worth of house, not $260,000 worth of house.
Yeah, $100,000 less than what they have it worth. And I want to emphasize this: that if you buy a house, you never answer to the government about how much you bought it for. You don't want to tell them what you bought it for, because if you bought it for more than they're taxing it for, they're going to raise it. So you don't do that. But I would just, and Dwight agree with me or not, I would say that the average house is taxed at about between 2.3 and 2.4%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use that math and do 200,000 times 2.3% versus if it was only 40,000 down and 260 versus 2.3 to 2.4%, and you'll see the difference in annual and divided by 12 and see the difference in monthly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. See, interject there on the average rate, it depends. Here in Texas, our average rate, it's going to depend if it's a new subdivision, a planned community versus an established community. So in an established seasoned community, you might see tax bases at somewhere 2.3, 2.5, but it's not uncommon out here for the tax base to be between 3.1 and as high as 3.8 or 3.9 in your planned communities. And so just a little quick education on what establishes that tax base is when the developers come in and buy a chunk of land, they typically take out bonds, millions or billions of dollars of bonds to build the infrastructure, the drainage, the roads, the curbs, the ditches, the infrastructure. And over time, they pass that bill back to the homeowners as they sell it out. So if it's a community that has a lot of lakes and trails and courts and amenities, you typically, the nicer or the more planned or the more amenities, the higher the tax base is. So if it's an older community, you know, where some of our parents live, you know, they may have very little tax and make it be as low as 2, but we do see a lot north of 3.
So if we're talking about just a regular old neighborhood where you got houses that maybe a 7-11, that's one thing. But if you got lakes and pools and all this other kind of,
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's more in Houston than in Dallas. We have some of that. We have in some of places like Little Elm and different places like that. We have what's called a PID, and that's what brings the rate up. But we usually don't have that as much. But yes, I have seen that in Houston where it can be that high. Dallas usually doesn't get that high, but I believe Fort Worth is one of the highest tax rates that I've seen, which is about 2.9.
Gotcha. No, that's good stuff. Very good stuff. So property taxes going down. We're talking specifically about Texas, but possibly other markets as well, depending on what the government doing. What about the pricing of houses? Again, you know, we've seen this within the last 5 years. You know, houses literally doubling 3-ish plus years in terms of. So if you were looking at a house 3 or 4 years ago, you can double that now. What are you guys seeing on just the cost of buying a house? Is that slowing down or is it speeding up?
That's the White's area, so I'll let him.
I'll jump in there. What we saw historically, homes typically go up maybe 2 to 3% a year over time. What we saw during the COVID years when there was a housing shortage, we saw year over year in some places homes going 7, 10, 15% in 1 year, which drove those tax bills, which led to Proposition 4. What I've noticed, homes honestly in Houston are still going up, but at a less of a rate. So they may be in appreciating or going up maybe 1 to 2% a year. So very subtle and gradual appreciation. So home prices here have not gone down at all. They're just going up much, much slower. Even slower than the norm. So I would say 3 to 2.5, 3.5 is probably normal. We saw abnormal appreciation during the COVID years, 7, 10, 15, and now we're down to a little bit abnormal, but it's still inclining. So Brother Terrell said something right now. Now is the time to buy. We don't have a crystal ball, but I think everybody on this call could agree if there was a good time, it's now. The rates are trending down. The appreciation is slowly moving up. It's a sweet spot. Sellers are taking longer to sell. This is absolutely. I made a post, kind of a funny post. I don't do a lot of funny stuff because I'm a real serious about my business. But I made a post on my social media. If any of you guys follow me, that there's this whole craze about these Stanley Cups. Not to lose the show, but if you think it's hard to find a Stanley Cup, think how hard it's going to be that much harder in April or May to buy a home because rates are going to come down. And more people are going to enter the market. I guarantee, brother Richard can tell you, Rashard can tell you, his loan applications are up right now. So people are getting ready. So now is the sweet spot, January, February, as opposed to it normally starts around March, spring break. If you're thinking about buying a home and you have the ability, it's on your list to happen this year, you should be connecting with him right now. You should be connecting with someone like myself right now because April, May, I don't think it's going to go back to COVID tight. But it is going to be extremely competitive. And
what is it about April or May that you're anticipating that is going to make it a lot more difficult?
I think the rates will go down again. Okay. So more people will want to buy. You'll have more buyers, more competition, supply and demand. So more people, we still don't have enough houses on the market. Our inventory is still at historically low rates. But if you get more buyers in the pool with less houses, we're going to start competing and outbidding each other again.
Okay.
And to add to that, April and May, schools are letting out, and people tend to want to move when their kids are able to move school districts instead of moving in the middle of the year. So they start looking more in April and May because they're anticipating to move into a district they want to be in the summer, so they can start in September or August, depending on where you are, in the right school, the school district you want to be in.
Yeah. So the traditional uptick because of people moving schools, spot on, coupled with better rates. It's gonna.
Yes.
I believe it'll be frenzy-ish again. So now
I believe so
time.
too.
So
I agree with you 100%.
sounds good. We've got a couple of other folks on the line. We want to acknowledge Ms. Bosie Scott. Hello, welcome from the Dunbar Greenwood neighborhood of Tulsa. What's going on, Ms. Bosie Scott? Monsieur Noor, that is Mr. Seth. We want to thank you for joining us this evening, Ms. Tanya Hall from KGGR Radio, and at Malone. All right, my brother, T-Talk that talk. All right, there are a couple of questions that I want to put out there. Maybe a little bit out of order, but I don't want to forget these questions later on in the show. So we have one question. What are the pros and cons of purchasing a home via auction? I don't know which of you would be better to lead that conversation, but we have a question. What are the pros and cons of purchasing a home via auction?
I'll tackle it or attempt to tackle it. A lot of auction stuff is luck, in my opinion. I did a lot of auction stuff in my first couple years trying to learn the business, and what I'm finding, I know we're supposed to touch on rental communities and stuff like that. There are a lot of people from coming into the States buying up these houses just for depreciation's sake and things like that. So during the year or so that I frequented the auction, we used to have them every first Tuesday, court auction type. There was a frenzy there when I saw it. There were people with headsets and microphones buying 3 and 4 houses at a time. And my experience was the price really wasn't any better. In the past, the idea was you could go to an auction or a courthouse step and you could get a deal, particularly if you're an investor. But my experience, that was about 4 years ago when I was doing it on a fairly consistent basis. I just didn't find the value, and I was looking for stuff personally because I think people, were buying homes. These institutional buyers were buying it for other reasons. They may not even want to live in it, or maybe they're going to rent it. They didn't really care about the value. They were looking for depreciable assets.
Gotcha.
And so my experience was, but sometimes you can get lucky if you subscribe to those lists. You go out there, do your homework before. Many times you're buying the home as is, so there's a great deal of risk associated with that to begin with. So the deal needs to be super good for the inherent risk. And in some cases, depending on the type of auction, the heirs still have a certain amount of time to come back and recapture that home. And so you bought it. Yeah, you get your money back. You don't make any interest and things like that.
Okay, I was going to ask. Yeah. So you buy a house and then somebody can go back and it's like, no, I think I want it.
Yeah, this is not my area of expertise. So I want to put that disclaimer out there first. But yeah, in some cases, they're selling this house and they haven't done all the title work and the due diligence, and their heirs that are still out there. A lot of times when they hit those auctions, you think, hey, nobody paid the taxes. No one has a vested interest in the home. No one cares. But all of a sudden, someone's grandson or someone's brother-in-law from another state gets wind of XYZ's house, and there's sometimes there can be a period of time where they can come back. Of course, they got to make good with the taxes, kind of reimburse you, but maybe they don't reimburse you for, you don't get your profit back and things like that. So there's a window of, so for me, it's not there are better ways, partner with top professionals, have a business plan, have a model for what you're trying to accomplish, and let us, go create that strategy for you through traditional means, maybe through wholesaling or maybe through just having the connections, the listings that hit our desk before they hit the public. So I don't want to talk that strategy down. I don't know. I, in my, 5.5, 6 years of doing this at a high level, haven't found much in the way of where people are really winning in auctions anymore. But you certainly, right place, right time, maybe in Central Texas, maybe some rural county or something like that. But no one that I know is winning in auctions in the metro area.
Yeah, I'll attempt to piggyback on that. Auctions back in the day had way more value than today. And it's because back in the day, when people had a house foreclosed on, it was foreclosed on after 20 years. Therefore, there was a lot of money paid on it, and you had more equity. Now, people are getting their houses foreclosed on or put to, excuse me, put to auction after 4 or 5 years. So the bank still wants to make their money. So there's not a lot left in there. So I agree. I think you need to give a professional like Dwight, because he has access to information about what houses can sell for. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, Dwight, I don't think you get to really go in the house. Do you? You have to bid on site. So you don't know what you're walking into.
Depending on the type of auction, they may have one day where you can view it, but many of them you don't. You're kind of bidding, you're kind of rolling the dice, and it has to be a really sweet deal. But
yeah, you're taking a risk, and you're bidding on a house that, even if it has the equity in it, you're bidding a house that was 300,000 that you get 200,000. But when you get in there, it has $30,000 worth of electric work needed. You have all these hidden costs you didn't know about. That you have to come out of pocket with to fix, and so I don't like the strategy, but I shouldn't talk it down because I don't 100% understand it. But I do know that it's probably good for people that maybe flip houses that have access to money to fix homes up, but it's not good for the average buyer. I don't believe, and that's just like Dwight said. Disclaimer: not my area of expertise, but from what I heard from the public and from people that have had issues trying to do that, you can walk into a situation where you thought there was nothing wrong with it, and you could end up footing a bill of $100,000 to get into livable conditions.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate the feedback. Excellent advice. There is one question, not a follow-up to this one, but kind of going back to the property tax exemption. We have one question: were there any other home exemptions, such as disability, increased in the state of Texas in particular?
No. Only thing that increased was the homestead exemption. Disability. So disability is kind of strange to me because if you're a military and a veteran, your disability weighs a lot higher than a regular disability. I've closed several homes where, and it depends on your county, if you have what's considered 80% disability. And I shouldn't say it's easier to get it when you're VA or you're military. They label you, higher, disability than a regular hospital. So if you're 100% disability in all counties, you don't have to pay any taxes. And there's some counties that you can be as low as 80% disability and not pay any taxes at all. But nothing else went up. It was just a homestead exemption for people that own homes, not if you rent the home, not if you you're a landlord, not if it's your second home or vacation home, only if it's your one homestead in Texas that you got a decrease in taxes.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right. And I think we talked about this a little bit before in terms of, it being such a tough market last year, and a lot of folks who have just gotten out of the market. I don't know what the order of magnitude on that looks like in 2023, considering that we're now 2024. I don't know if we have the data on that, but how drastic what was that in terms of folks exiting the market, and what impact do you think that's going to have now that we are moving into 2024?
I'll let Dwight answer that one. He's
okay
there.
Yeah. In the real estate industry, there are about 1.5 million realtors nationwide, and the data is not out for year end, but as of July, over 60,000 realtors had left the business. So that's about 4%. And I fully suspect when the data is released, in the coming weeks, is going to more than double. I don't think it's going to be 120,000. I think it's going to be more, maybe 150,000. I suspect at least 10 or 12% of the people are going to exit the business. I'm looking at an article from Inman News. I get a lot of my real estate news from Inman on a daily basis. Some of it's garbage, but there's a lot of good data that comes through it. And it said that 67% of real estate agents sold 5 homes or less, and 49, right at 50%, sold either 0 or 1. So there's a lot of
repeat that again.
67% of realtors sold between 0 and 5 homes last year.
Gotcha.
And
And what was another number?
49% sold either 0 or 1.
Wow.
Yes, correct.
So there's a lot of fees, continuing education, brokerage fees, lock boxes, signs, marketing. It costs a lot of money to do this at a high level. So if you're paying the money and you're not getting the sales, all of a sudden people decide I'm not that interested in this anymore. So I suspect your annual dues become due around the 31st or the first of the month. A lot of fees get re-upped in December and January. So I think at 6 months, if we had 60,000 that left then, and that's not necessarily a hard fee date, that I truly expect is going to be way more than another 60.
Correct.
The impact, you asked the second part of that question, for the folks that do it at a pretty high level, that do it full time, it actually benefits us. And you've heard us say this before. My number one competition is not an agent that's doing 20, 30, 40, 50 homes a year like me. My biggest competitor is the people that do one a year, So
Yep.
again, 41,000 realtors in Houston, probably 30,000 of them do one. That's 30,000 homes that I didn't even get a chance at, So that's my competition. So for the folks that do it at a high level, it's kind of a purging, and it's not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned.
Correct.
What about on your end, Terrell?
Yeah. So, I definitely agree with Brother Dwight there, especially on his side. What I've learned is that there's a lot of part-time realtors in the business. And so I always try to educate my clients that you have to do your research of who's going to be a realtor. A lot of them have second jobs and they don't do it at a high level. They just hear all the information Dwight has. If you don't do this daily, if you don't subscribe to this as your business, you're not going to be able to help your clients out as much. Your negotiation skills are usually going to be not as good. You're probably going to pay more for a house working with somebody that sells one house a year versus somebody that's selling 50 houses a year, because they're always, increasing their education and their knowledge. On my side, it's a little bit different because we don't charge as much and we don't have as much continued education. We really only have one time you have to do continue education, but we're kind of the same too. We have so many loan officers that this is not their main job. This is their second job and maybe even third job, and they only will do business when business finds them. So they are the ones that I agree when Dwight said it, are the ones that are my main competition, because I don't have competition I don't have as much competition from the people that do a lot, because we have our own sphere of influence that we get our business from. It's the ones that will do one or two loans a year that could have gone our way that affect us. Now, at the end of the day, it's not gonna, that's fine. If they can do it, that's great. But it's just a difference in if you're not with the right professional, it's going to cost you. Most likely, it can cost you in terms of interest rate, in terms of knowing products. One of my biggest advantages of working with me is that I don't just tell you what product you ask for. I ask you a series of questions, and I'll let you tell me what you want, and then I share with you a variety of different things that may be better for you. I can help you maybe with down payment assistance, different things like that, or just putting you in the right product. But I do see that in our industry, we didn't lose as many salespeople, which are loan officers. We lost the infrastructure, which are our processors, underwriters, and different things like that. Because in my industry, most loan officers are paid not a salary, but you pay commission. So people not making a commission will go away. But even if they're not costing the company money. So there's no reason to let you go. But when you have a company that normally does 100 units a month or 200 units a month, and all of a sudden you go through the last 2 years where it got cut to 30 and 40,000, and you have positions such as processors, underwriters, different positions where you're paying a salary, that overhead became too much for companies, and companies that didn't adapt went out of business. And the companies that did adapt, they had massive layoffs. They laid their people off where they may have had 20 of those people in those positions, and they went all the way down to 5 people. So it affected a lot of jobs because there wasn't just enough meat on the bones to go around for everybody.
So I guess it really makes sense to make sure that you understand and trust and have credibility in terms of who you're dealing with, whether you're talking about on the agency side of it or on the back side of it, the back office side of it. And kind of adding to this, even though not directly related, we talked about this before, and I've seen a few articles about this in 2023, where there were lawsuits going on in the real estate industry that affects some of the folks in your business. I think commission lawsuits and things of that nature. I don't know all the details of it, but what is that about? How does it impact the industry? And what do consumers, home buyers, things of that nature need to know that about it? I don't know that it directly affects them, but I was just curious about that.
Yeah, we did have a lot of lawsuits, and I thought it would be a hotter topic. There's been a ton of lawsuits, commission lawsuits, stemmed out of a bunch of class actions. They started in Missouri. Basically, how the suit arrived is that sellers, it's very traditional and very typical for the seller in a real estate transaction all over the country, not just here in Texas, to pay all or the majority of the commission. So the suit was birthed by a class, when a certain number of people, they make it a class, was saying, why are we sellers paying the buyer's agent's commission? And to answer that, without getting too deep, basically, when we as realtors, when we take on a buyer client, there's a representation agreement between us that we need to, 3% is kind of the standard. Everything in real estate is negotiable, including that. But we basically say, hey, this is what we have to earn to make a living. There's no salary involved. And so it works really well. If the seller is paying the commission, there's no disincentive for the realtor or for the client. So if I have a client, for example, I'll explain to all my clients what my fee is. It's 3%. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. It can come from the seller, it can come from the buyer, it can come from the bill, it doesn't matter. But what a lot of realtors will do is if the seller doesn't offer the commission, the buyer's agent won't bring anyone to look at your house. So it really is in your best interest as a seller to pay that commission. So one, you give your own realtor the marketing budget and the dollars to market it. So your marketing essentially comes from the pre-commission before he earns that commission. If he knows he's going to earn a commission, they can do professional videos and photography and all those things, open houses, etc. But that's the gist of it. Sellers were saying, why are we paying both of the commissions? That's kind of the gist of it. And in Missouri, in the first place, they won the suit, class action. Now, as I understand, it's an appeal. It's a lot of money involved. And in my personal opinion, it'll be years, if any, before anyone collects a penny off that lawsuit. And there's so many lawyers involved that even then it'll be pennies if it ever happens. But the reality of it is it is in your best interest to hire a professional that can properly market your home and sell it and pay the full commission on both sides, because time is money. I don't pay it. I wouldn't do it because I have the confidence that my clients will pay me my commission even if you don't. But most agents, the ones that do one a year or two, don't have the skill set or the knowledge or the know-how to do that. And what they're going to do is they're going to just make an excuse not to come to see your house. They're like, oh, that's not paying me no money. I couldn't get the appointment. Oh, it's not available. It's under contract. They'll do whatever they can. If they don't think they can get paid, they're not going to show your house. So if you don't get that commission as a seller, you're hurting yourself, because now it takes you, instead of 60 days to sell a house, it may take you 150 days to sell it. And your time is money.
So this potentially hurts the seller of the house, maybe the buyer of the house.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. It could hurt both. It doesn't help anyone.
Anything that you would add to that, Terrell, at all?
No, it doesn't happen in my neck of the woods. As a lender, I can't make more money by selling you a higher rate or less money by doing a lower rate. We give you what you qualify for, and sometimes we have specials to go off of that. So we don't have those type of lawsuits. But I definitely will piggyback on Dwight saying that you are hurting yourself when you lower your commissions and try to say, I'm not going to do this, because there's a lot of realtors out there that are not going to show that house to you. based on the fact that they show another house, they'll earn 3%, as opposed to you're trying to pay both parties 1%, unless you have a $80 million home, so home size does matter in that.
Yeah, spot on with that. Yeah, it's just the commission is important. It's actually in your best interest to pay that commission. And along that same line, love to work with you if you're in this Houston area, but a lot of people will shop realtors based strictly on that commission, and you're doing yourself a disservice. So if you hire a realtor that's going to discount his commission from day one, he doesn't have the skill set or the knowledge or the confidence or the history. If he can't even negotiate his own commission, his or her own commission, how are they going to compete with someone that does it at a high level with me? If I'm bringing someone there to buy your house and you got what we might call a discount realtor, I'm going to take advantage of you and him through you. So don't, that's a big thing. A lot of people say, well, this realtor said he'll list it for 3 or 4 or whatever. If you're getting a discount realtor, just be aware that that's what you're hiring. You're hiring. You're not hiring someone at the top of their game, and you'll lose real money.
Good deal. We have a couple of other questions that I'd like to address, a couple of other topics before we close the show. We're about 13 minutes out. Question specifically to Terrell, do you offer loans everywhere or just in the state of Texas?
No, we can help you in 20 plus states, so it depends on the state. My license particularly is just in Texas, but I'm always able to put you with somebody at my company in other states that I trust. I have built a network of guys that I do trust in different states that I know are knowledgeable, such as states like, Colorado, New Mexico, California, just a different variety of states. So you have to let me know which state it is, and I'll work with you while they're working with you to make sure that you get the best service.
All right, good deal. Thank you for that. Also, another question: any advice for homeowners looking to make good money while still living in their home, doing such things as Airbnb their house out of the weekends? Any tips, pros and cons?
I can tackle it. Well, you want to tackle that, Dwight? I have an experience at my company with that, so I'll share that story if you want to answer that first.
We'll let both of y'all.
I know a couple people. Airbnbs I still have clients doing it. And I have still clients making money. It's not as hot as it once was. The state of New York and probably some other people are following suit. These Airbnb owners, especially the ones that own multiple, are preventing the cities from getting all the tax revenue for hotel tax they're doing. So there's laws being changed around that Airbnb space. Correct. That you can only own one, etc. Because again, cities like New York, they claim they're leaving millions of dollars on the table off of hotel tax revenue and things like that to Airbnb. So we're starting to see some laws change that are kind of making it not so favorable to have bunches of them. The other things you can do, if you have space, this is one that I've seen in the last year and a half or so. I've seen folks rent rooms. If you're comfortable doing that, there's entities. The traveling nurses is a big one, but there's another one, and it's escaping me right this second, where there's people that are out there that are traveling. They're solo travelers, they're solo workers. They're working for a month or 2 or 3 months at a time, or sometimes even a year, but they're not going to permanently relocate. I'm working with a client now. She does something in the like a planning space, but she's been here in Houston for a very long time. She rents a room from someone I know, frat brother of ours, Tommy, for about $900 a room. So he was renting 2 rooms while he was living in it. He's gotten married. Now I think instead of renting the whole house for $1,700, he's renting 3 rooms for $900 each, and it's more money. So you might consider renting a room if you can deal with that type of lifestyle. But I wouldn't. We don't have that tax situation here in Texas with Airbnb, because, like I said, I do have a couple people that are still doing Airbnb and doing it at a high level. If you're going to do Airbnb, it needs to be really, really nice. That's another trend that I'm seeing. So if you're just an Airbnb owner and you're generic, those are not doing as well. But most people, if they're going to come to Houston, for example, to see the bowl game that just happened last night or 2 nights ago, they're spending a lot of money to get here anyway. So they want an experience. They want something really, really nice. So if you're going to be in that space, don't do it on the cheap would be my advice.
So not just a room, an experience.
Correct.
Yeah, they
Correct.
want to experience.
All right,
So,
Terrell, I'll let you add to that.
so my answer to that, because of experience of people I know that have rented Airbnbs. I know attorney that was been very successful in a very nice area that's made a lot of money. So the pros is that you should, if you can keep it rented out, you're going to make more money than you can make as a typical renter. But I have at least 3 horror stories of people that I know that have Airbnbs where one of the biggest trends is underage kids, 18, 19, renting them out and, throwing wild parties, possibly destroying your property. I also had a coworker actually that, had somebody out there that was doing illegal drugs and had unsavory women there, and the police will not help you with that at all. You have to get them out, and they were unwilling to leave. So it was up to them to get them out the house. So it can become a serious situation, if you don't handle it correctly, or if you, even if you handle it correctly, you don't know who you're renting to, or allowing to go into your Airbnb. So it's a tough space to do, because if done right, I've seen people do it through realtors and let them handle the brunt of it, but you can get the wrong renters in there that will party and destroy some of your property, and you're going to have to take them to court and try to sue for that. And, good luck with that part of it.
Gotcha. And on that, I'm sorry, Dwight, did you want to add something to that?
Well, someone responded to Tanya in the chat, and I do agree. I forgot about that. Yeah, the flight attendants and pilots, they do what they call crash pads, but you got to be really close to the airport to do it. And it's the same concept. You're bringing someone to your space.
Gotcha.
That's a suggestion from your savvy audience.
Talking about the rental market, not specifically for Airbnb, and I know we talked about this very briefly, Terrell, but I'd like you to share a little bit more about the dynamics, because this real estate market is not your parents' real estate market. And, it startled me when you say, you know what, we could be building up to a nation of renters as we get to the younger generations. They're not as interested in buying a house like their grandparents or parents did. They're doing short to mid-term rents. Maybe they're a more transient population. Unpack a little bit about what this looks like and what this means, and what both of you guys may have been seeing on your end when it comes to a broader cross-section, what those demographics look like and how it's impacting the market.
Well, what's going on, what I've seen, and there's a neighborhood in Fort Worth that has about 400, homes, and they're only for rent. They're not for buy.
No, you couldn't buy them if you wanted to.
Couldn't buy them if you wanted to.
Wow.
And I see that happening. There's a trend, and you said it's not your parents' market, but it may be your parents' fault. We may not have taught our kids the way we should have. They did a study, and kids right now, their biggest worry and their biggest thing they want to contribute to is travel. They want to see the world. They want to do everything. They want to go on 2 or 3 trips a year, cost $3,000-4,000, dollar trip. And they're not worried about, owning a home. So the savvy people, the billionaires in the world are saying, then why sell them a home that's going to make a lot more money? We can actually build a neighborhood and just continue to make money off of them, off of continual renting. And, it is what it is on that part. And my argument to the youth is that a person 20 years ago that bought a house for $300,000, you probably, could have rented it out for, let's say, $200 less a month. But after 20 years of you living there, you have nothing to show for it. And this person has a home that is probably now only has 100,000 left on it, and it's not worth 300,000 anymore. It's worth 900,000. So now they made $800,000 where you just lived in the house and you went on 2 extra trips a year. So it is a hot button for me, because I teach my kids that's not the way to do it. But I have learned that the youth right now are not worried about tomorrow. they only care about, satisfying today.
Hey, TikTok, Instagram, lifestyle, traveling the world.
Oh, got a show on Instagram. There's no point in my life I would have ever grabbed $8,000 and showed everybody that I got 8,000. But they do that all day. So they want to flaunt their lifestyles. They want to show it, and we as parents need to teach them that you have to live a different way. And I think our generation didn't do as good as our parents. We did in some areas, but this area we failed.
Gotcha. All right. I don't know if you're seeing this, Dwight, but anything that you would add to that?
Not anything that I could really add to that. There are communities here. It's the same institutional buyers that are buying everything at auction. Somebody's got an agenda that's different than ours, and their money's a little different, and they're buying up stuff. And they understand that real estate is the key to wealth, and they can go out there and buy in bulk and lease to you. And if you're willing to lease from them, it's a market. So we do need to break that cycle, break that curse. If that means getting more people like us that look like us in the business and doing more talking, doing more education, and so forth. But yeah, we're definitely seeing it. There's a group here called Camillo, and I don't know. I guess I never did a deep dive. They do have whole communities. They build new homes. They're very poorly built. And they're renters only. And so in my early career, that was a place I would try to go to pick up clients at the end of their rental cycle to convert them to homeowners. So, but yeah, they're whole communities and they're all renters, and that's just what they do. There's always going to be a market for it because, again, lack of education, lack of information, and as long as they can do it and they have the resources, those institutions have the resources to buy in bulk.
And that's part of the key of what I've been seeing. And we talk about the growing rise of prices, of buying a home, the so-called American dream. And we talked about this last year, how you have much larger institutional buyers that are, buying large swaths of real estate property, and they are able to control the market and the pricing of that. And sometimes that makes it kind of tough on the individual homeowner or family in terms of trying to get what they call a reasonably priced home, not trying to go over the market, but just get something that they can afford. Taxes are going to continue to go up, so that bill is going to continue to go up every year, so it's pretty tight. And it kind of leads me to, and this is hopefully going to resonate with you, Dwight. I found this information here that I thought was pretty interesting. The gap in net worth is widening over time. So it's a little bit dated. This is 2024, and this goes from 2010 to 2019. But basically, it's saying that there is a gap, a widening gap in the overall wealth that is directly indexed, of course, to home ownership. And it's you call it the haves and the have-nots, but most of that haves is folks who have homes and or real estate and how their wealth is progressively growing. And to your point, those who don't, and their wealth is pretty stagnant.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm doing a show later on in the month on my weekly show where I'm interviewing a guest. And sometimes it's I think this is a Black Men Speak, so this is predominantly a Black and brown audience, but sometimes we're just harder to educate. We're just harder to inform. We don't listen as well. I have a lady, I sold her house 5 years ago. She called, I'll be super quick. She called me to rent, needed to rent something really quick. One day I showed her rentals and I said, at this price point, have you considered buying? And I just, not even 30 minutes, had a conversation. Would you try? She was trusting, never met her. She bought a house. She called me after New Year's, got my New Year's newsletter, needed a valuation. She's ready to sell. And that house 5 years ago, she's got about 140,000 in equity. But she listened. I didn't have to, she looked like me and you, but I didn't have to really work that hard to convince her to do it. I was able to have an intelligent conversation. It made sense. She trusted me. She tried, and she's literally thanking me. So she's going to be a guest on my show, I think on the 24th. It's a noon show, but it's going to be a good story because, I'm helping that lady build wealth. Now she's getting ready to get married. She doesn't need the house. She's about to walk away with $140,000 cash in less than
that she could have threw away.
She listened and trusted me.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'd like to highlight, another slide that I found that was quite interesting. I don't think this is right. It's a little bit of an eyesore because it's kind of small. But the bottom line here is it looks like it looks at home ownership by demographics since 1940. And for those who can't see this, I apologize. It's kind of small, but it's showing that I want to say this is as of 2019. The white community has the highest home ownership, which is in the low 70s. It shows the Asian community the next highest at about 58%. The Latin American population or Hispanic population at about 47%. That has leapfrogged the African American community right in the early 2000s. It has the lowest rate of home ownership at 42%, give or take. And we talk about the gap in wealth in America and what that looks like. And it's directly correlated with home ownership because if my understanding is correct, and correct me with my loan, if I'm wrong, but historically, the greatest indicator of wealth has to do with the acquisition of real estate in some sort, whether that's your home, land, rental properties, things of that nature. And what this is showing is that we're least likely to own these types of assets. And we understand that there's a reason behind this. We kind of started 400 some odd years behind some other folks who are here. But then you have things like the GI Bill, which may not have been equitably made available to our grandparents, our grandfathers and grandmothers, as opposed to other folks who may have served. Redlining still exists. You know, you guys are talking about it. We've had other folks. Redlining still exists. It may be more sophisticated. And just people like you, representation, so that you can generate strategies, so that you can find the right home or the right real estate strategy for yourself. But with that being said, that gap is still there. Can y'all speak to that a little bit?
I definitely want to speak to that. So I mainly, I don't have a demographic I only work with, but my main buyers are people that look like me. And I don't find that to be that to buy. I find that we can't buy. And my education with a lot of my clients are in your earlier years, or, what's going on is the ones that really want to buy did not take care of their credit, and it puts them in situations where they can't buy. Also, the cure for having a little bit suspect credit is having, the necessary money, and what happens is I think there was a study said that for every dollar African American makes, they spend $1. So we don't save like other races. So you can't buy yourself out of bad credit. So I try to help all my clients, and I tell them I never tell anybody that I've never turned anybody down in my life. I say you can't buy now, but I'm able to run an algorithm with using the credit bureaus to say, this is what you need to do to get your credit score where you can purchase. And it may take 1 month, it may take 6 months, it may take a year, but I give them a strategy if they're very serious about getting themselves out of that. But, we just have to get better at making better decisions of what we buy, also about saving money. As we talked earlier about, the youth wanting to go on all these vacations. Well, those vacations cost money. You have to pay yourself just like you pay your bills, and make sure you put yourself in position to win in the future.
All right. Would you add to that, Dwight, anyway?
No, that's pretty accurate. Just try to follow shows and programs like this. Be a little more trusting. Like I said, I just gave that example for someone that I had no history, no relationship with, could not be defensive and could take on information and process it. You can verify the information, but listen to it. Talk to people and take action. Create a plan. It's new year. It's goal time, and maybe it's not going to be in 2024. But get with someone like Brother Terrell or myself, and let's create a plan for next year.
That's right.
Do something. We're that gap. The one thing I noticed from the last slide, it was small, but we were 30% less over that entire graphic. So we haven't gained any ground.
Yeah.
And so if you're not planning, if you're not talking to the right people, if you can't do it now, at least create a plan now. Nothing stopped you from making a plan and having a vision and getting resources and things like this. So I would just say that's a big thing, just put a plan in place. And a lot of times these things are a lot more doable than you think. We're policing ourselves. Well, hey, I ain't gonna be able to do this, so therefore I ain't gonna say this. Now you're doing two bad things. So just create a plan, get with somebody to build a strategy on how you can position yourself to get ready if you're not ready.
Yep. Gotcha. All right. We have one last question. We're a little bit over, but as Jimmy would always say, we on this platform, so we can go over a few minutes, and this information is very valuable. One last question from Tanya Hall. Talk about using your house as your bank. If you need to pay off some debt, what's the APR I would have to pay it back at? Is it the same as the APR on my house? Don't know if either of y'all have dealt with that before, using your home as your bank before, but if you could address that briefly, and then we will close it out with that.
So I have not used mine, but I deal with a lot of clients that use theirs, and it's called a home equity line of credit or home equity loan. And you can even get a cash out loan, but today I don't recommend a cash out loan because most people interest rate is a lot lower. So on a home equity line of credit or home equity loan, you're leaving the first lien alone. So you may have a lower interest rate loan that you took out on your house 10 years ago, and it may be at 3.5%, where today's rates are in the sixes. So you don't want to borrow money against your home and increase the total loan to that 6.5. So what you do, you take out a second lien and you use that to pay off debt. Now that second lien, the APR is not going to be the same as your home today. Most likely, depending on what your interest rate is on your home today. It's going to be a little higher, but a second lien today runs about 8.9 to about 10%. But it depends on what you're using it for. If you're paying off high interest rate credit cards that are at 18, 19%, it makes sense. If you're using it to send a child to college, it makes sense. And you can set that up on a term that you would like. You can set it up on 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I still think it's a great idea just because if you need home improvements or you need to get your house in order, it's better to do that than to let your house, fall apart. And that's going to cost more money. And if you have kids that need it, or you have high interest rate, credit cards, you're helping yourself out. Now, don't use it to go on a trip to Vegas, and if you do, hopefully you win, but use it for the right reasons. And, they are out there. The fees are less than if you involved your regular home. And it's a good idea for you if you have equity in your home.
Excellent. Gentlemen, we are out of time, but as always, great show, great information, great questions from our audience. We appreciate you both. We're going to have you back, at least once a quarter, if not earlier than that. And I'll give you an opportunity to just give any closing comments, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll start out with you, Dwight, and then Terrell.
I just thank you so much for the platform. This is one of the things that can make a difference. Just slow and steady. What you're doing is awesome. So just excited to be a part of the platform, and I think my numbers flashed there a couple times. We're always happy to help folks in any way, shape, or fashion, even if it's not in my market area. But Terrell and I love to get paid, but it's never about the money. It's more about the information. Right. I have a real philosophy that I live by. The money follows success. And so the more people I can help, the more successful I'm going to be. I don't really have to worry about money in that way. But, we are pretty passionate about what we do. We'd love to help you, help us close that gap using the vehicle of real estate. That's what we do all day, every day.
First of all, I want to thank one of my longtime clients and friends, A.T. Malone, for joining, and one of the baddest investors in the world, Karen Powell, along with her husband, Todd Powell, for joining. Her and her husband, they're beasts out there. But I agree with Dwight 100%. I'm here to help. I'm here for information. I tell my clients, I keep hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and as needed on Sundays, because I enjoy what I do. You know, I've never had my wife yell at me for taking a phone call, you know, at 9 o'clock at night to help somebody out. So thank you for this platform. Thank you for, you know, I'm here to serve my people. I'm really, you know, big on next time seeing that graph you sent where we've outdone every race, you know. So I'm here for my people, and I'm here for information, here to serve.
Yeah.
All right. Amen, brother. We'll see you back soon. Much, and have a good night.
Good night.